Hey, what's up, Reefers? It has been a while since I've talked about the mangrove tank because I wanted to grow out a little bit more before we talk about it, but I think today's the day. But first, yes, you're not seeing double. We have two green spotted puffer. Some of you guys may think that, yeah, this is wasabi, but I actually have a really sad news. Is that wasabi jumped maybe 2 months ago. This was before London, and I just didn't even want to think about it during the trip. But what happened was I had the cover, the screen off for I think 2 nights as I was doing some maintenance before the trip, and I did not see him for the following 2 days, I believe, and I started getting a little bit worried. I mean, they're cryptics, but not that cryptic. So I started looking around the tank, and to my horror, I found him dried up all the way in the back. I was, man, I don't even know how to bring it up to the kids, but fortunately they took it well, and I felt terrible. This totally could have been prevented. It's absolutely my fault. So these days, lid stays on, even if I just stepped away for something quick downstairs. Just a lot more careful. So please learn from me. Yeah, I know that I could probably just pass this guy off as wasabi because they look really similar, but I don't want to do it to you guys. Like, if something happens, something happened. I just let you guys know to learn from my mistake. So in the case of green spotted puffer, they are jumper. Be careful. Somebody did mention it and warn me, but I got comfortable and just left the lid off for 2 days, and unfortunately wasabi paid the price. So hopefully I learned from it, and these guys do much better and live a nice and full life in my care. But here's a little bit about how I got them. Alright, we got a few options. The figure 8 looks nice, but they don't do well in marine, so that's out. We got a big one. This guy's pretty big. We got some smaller ones, 2. So there's 3 total in this tank. One is hiding. Okay. And we got this one. Should we do all 3 puffers? Well, this one is hiding. Or should we just do 1? I don't know, man. Maybe 2? That one just looks a little bit... Yeah, that one I like. But I feel like when we just had wasabi by himself, it was kind of lonely. Maybe we'll just do 2. Alright, so we end up with 2 green spotted puffer and a tadpole. That's a wild card. We'll see how they do.
I really have it.
Alright, maybe I should take it. Alright, we're back home. In the container. Trying to acclimate to full marine. It looks like they're sitting at about 1 salinity. So, tiny bit of salt. So we're going to slowly raise it up. Also got to be careful that they don't jump out. Now that I know that they are pretty avid jumper. I also want to keep an eye out that they don't start fighting in this little bucket. I don't like how one is staring at the other one.
3 weeks later.
One of the big concerns I have is whether they're going to get along, because the green spotted puffer can be a little bit mischievous and a little bit aggressive. Some people say that they are fin nippers, but so far so good. As you can see, they seems to be playing well together. Usually when one goes somewhere, the other one follows. So that is a good sign, and we'll see how it goes long term, so I'll keep you guys up to date. In terms of this video today, I'm going to give you an overview of how the tank is doing at the moment, how the macroalgae are doing at the moment, what they are, what are some ways I'm trying to keep these macroalgae healthy, what is the maintenance of this tank, and then we're going to take a quick look at the mangrove tank as well, because it is quite overgrown, and today I think I'm going to use this opportunity to trim it back a little bit to give that bushier look. And I'll go a little bit more in depth later. A bit of a follow-up to the macroalgae shipment from last video. They did not do well. Let me just start by saying that. The blue Xenia, once again I felt. I added them here, but over a span of maybe 1 week, they just disintegrated and that's it. And I think I'm done with blue Xenia. It just simply does not like this tank. The other thing that sadly did not make it is the brown ribbon-like macroalgae. It was kind of like a wild card, if you will. that I thought I'd add some different color to this tank, but same thing, it just kind of eventually wasted away. The other one I'm really interested in this tank is the feather macroalgae. I see that it's still trying to carve out a niche for itself in this tank. It's even running up the wall right now. We'll see how it goes. I think that's the fat lady has not sang for the green macroalgae yet, the feather macroalgae. However, what is doing really well in this tank are these right here. These are the red bubble algae and they're just going gangbuster. I have to harvest these every week. Otherwise it's gonna touch the surface of the water and start shading other macroalgae and corals. Along the same line, the atomic broccoli, I'm gonna bring it out for you guys, is also doing really well under this tank's environment. Look at this. It's absolutely beautiful, but I think I need to start pulling out some frags and kind of start another colony somewhere else. Since I have a tweezer, I also want to show you one of my favorites, red macroalgae. I'm not sure the actual name, but it's like a ribbon-like texture and growth formation. Look at this. This reminds me of like back in my freshwater days, you would buy fake plants, and this would be one of them. This almost looks like kelp in some way, but it's really ribbony, really rubbery, and is a nice dark red. I think this is a really nice background macroalgae that I have not seen too much of. Look at that. It had just been steadily growing in the back. It's really sturdy. It does not rip apart really easily, kind of like these guys right here. It's just like a nice, sturdy red macro that provides a really nice coverage in the back. Look at this. And again, I have not really seen much of this in the hobby yet. So I think it's just a matter of time, but it's absolutely beautiful. The other notable mention is this guy right here. At first I wasn't sure what to make of this macroalgae because it's kind of like a red branching one with like neon blue tip. But it's growing on me. It gives it different types of texture. And it has that nice little fluorescent blue and purple tip, which is kind of nice too. So I do like it. And I did not order this one. This is the one that Mosaic Macro tossed in for free for me, thinking maybe I want to check this out. But yeah, I do appreciate it, and thank you again for including this. Now, since this is a mixed reef, of course we have corals. For whatever reason, the weeping willows in this coral are just happy. I have two frags of the Bahama Llama's weeping willow. I have the what I call the shaggy willow. This is the one from Red Frog in Toronto, the green one. It just grew so fast. So whatever the environment this system has, it seems to be able to grow this type. So I'm thinking about moving more of the shaggy willow into this tank to grow out because it's just happy here. And of course, I also have a sample coral. This is a standard frog spawn that I drop in here just to see if this tank can sustain LPS because I'm not dosing any of the kalkwasser or 2 parts. I hardly do any water change, so just kind of like as is. I do those trace elements, which I'll go over in a little bit, but only sparingly. But apparently the LPS does not mind too much, so I may start moving a little bit more LPS in here. I do have a lot of frags I need to find place for in the 135, so I think this may be a nice outlet. The other coral that I'm really happy in this tank is this. That is the Fiji yellow leather, and I have been chasing this dragon for years. All the Fiji yellow leather always turn kind of green or just like a dark brown in my other systems. So there are different things that were tossed out as theories, right? Some people say that it needs more blue lights. Some people say that it just needs highlights. So to test this, I basically just moved the Fiji yellow leather frag all the way to the top. In terms of light, you see that it is not that blue. It is basically just a white light for macroalgae, and it started turning yellow. Look at this. The skin is a canary yellow. The polyp is still a little bit greenish. I feel like maybe if I blast it with even more light, maybe it would turn more yellow, but I also don't want to risk the other corals and macroalgae, which I'll go a little bit more into. I do have one more frag of Fiji yellow leather, but unfortunately I think it got stung by something. It's kind of receding. Although I do still see some polyps sticking out, so maybe it'll make a recovery. I am not sure. But it was also overgrown by macroalgae too. And that is the issue I'm facing with macroalgae. They just grow so fast, which is a blessing and also a curse in some way. Because it started shading things, it started competing with nutrients, which is an issue that I ran into. The nutrient as well as trace elements exhaustions. In terms of feeding the green spotted puffer, I am still going with Asian supermarket stuff. So whatever they have available at the seafood aisle, I grab So to wrap it up of the corals, I've also added 3 different types of Xenia in this tank thanks to local trades. I believe those are the ruby red Xenia. The color's pretty distinct. And this, I start to see, I forget how to pronounce it, but these are more like a cluster, they grow in branch. And I also have some blue Xenia up front, but unfortunately those are not doing well because I had it next to the frog spawn before and it got stung the heck out of. But so far, the green spotted puffer did not bother any corals, it did not bother any macroalgae. In fact, it didn't even bother the bumblebee snails that I have. I was half writing off the bumblebee snails thinking they're goners, but they are still around. So I don't know. These guys are pretty particular. Oh, there we go. Go for it. Sample the food. Boy, these do not smell good. I think they're on the way out. Alright, like I mentioned, I also feed some black worms once in a while. Yeah, the puffer love these because they're like noodles. They just kind of slurp them up. So I do feed black worms once in a while as well. But for the most part, the stable is still like clams and snails that I could find in supermarkets. And they are probably better that way too because they're more economical. Here, let's do a little bit more. And there they go. But yeah, like I mentioned, these two are doing extremely well together. No aggression issue. I may have lucked out. I'm not sure, but I'm just glad that they get along. If not, plan B was to move one of them to the 135 gallon because they're not really bothering any corals I could see. Potential issue could be the baby clam that I have, but I thought I'll keep an eye out and we'll see what happens. But so far, so good. And this tank is 17 gallon. I think it may be okay for 2 of them. Yeah, they're not a big fan of this Babylon snail for whatever reason, which is odd, but we'll leave that in there for a little bit and see what's going on. So next thing I want to talk about is the upkeep of this tank. This tank is so low maintenance. The only maintenance I really do for this tank is trimming. Trimming off the macroalgae is a big one. Water change maybe every 3 months, if even that. And I also mentioned that I do dose some trace elements once in a while. Some of the main elements I dose is definitely magnesium. The magnesium is mainly for the mangrove tree. They do uptake magnesium. I do dose nitrates weekly. I do dose weekly nitrates. I dose about yay much. I know that's not too helpful. I think it's 60 mil. And in terms of the nitrate concentration, I use my Reef Sensei Gym Telegrams DIY nitrates. So that has been working for me. Because I've noticed that if I don't dose nitrate, some macroalgae really obviously start dying back. So there's definitely something there. So I do nitrates. And maybe each 2 months or so, I'll bring all the Reef Moonshiner trace elements up here and just randomly dose some in here. And it's so bad. What I dose is chromium, cobalt, manganese, fluoride, rubidium, what's that, selenium? What else we got? And also the liquid mud. But that just like, kind of like every 2 months I do like a little bit, just kind of like a catch-all in case it's missing something. I never buffer the alkalinity and calcium in this tank except for whenever I do water change. And whenever I do water change, I change maybe this much. It's not a lot, probably like 25-30% if even that. And I clear out the in-tank sump. Sometimes I have a piece of, not sponge, but those floss in there. I need to do a better job of removing them. But I do have a piece that captured the larger detritus. I do have a skimmer. This is the Mini Q skimmer from Bubble Magus, if I remember correctly. And I think I may have bought this from AliExpress, if I remember right, because it's a little bit cheaper there. And it has been doing well. Like, it's pulling things out. I don't think it's going to be a big issue if I do not have a skimmer in this tank, simply because I have so many macroalgae and we got this big plant right here. So I don't think it'll be a big issue, but I feel a little bit better since I have like now 2 puffers in here generating waste. And by the way, the reason I want to add one more puffer is because I noticed that I still have to dose nitrates. So I feel like, okay, I need more fish waste going into the system to feed all the different macroalgae. But I was holding my breath, like I mentioned. I don't know if they'll get along, but thankfully they got along, and it's awesome. It's been awesome so far. It's so much more fun watching two of them interact versus like it's just me walking in front of the tank waiting for Wasabi to come out, and usually he does these days. But now I get to see them play around by themselves too. So it's been fantastic. It has been fantastic. Macroalgae grow really, really fast, and different types of macroalgae do take turn being the dominant ones. Before, I think it's the dragon's breath. Was it dragon's tongue? I think it's dragon's. I think it's called dragon's breath, right? Those red one, and you see it's receded back as the red bubble algae, red bubble macroalgae. Just completely dominates and takes over, and they do take turn doing stuff like this, and there's a reason why the dragon's breath macroalgae receded. From what I could gather as best as I could, what happened is that while I was in London, for whatever reason, this Radion G4 Pro light went to 100% intensity. I don't know how it happens. Some corals are pissed off, some corals are really happy. That thing just shut down. No polyp extension at all. However, this frag was doing fine, which is weird. The Fiji yellow leather, as you may have guessed, is really happy. Canary yellow. The dragon breath, also really happy. It just exploded in growth in that section. That section was all dragon's breath. Macroalgae in general did well under the higher light. It's the coral that was suffering. The frog spawn was noticeably bleaching, and things are just looking bad. Things are all really tightened up and bleached out, really pale. That's when I was like, oh, something's going on. What's going on? Is it light shark? So I look into my Mobius apps, and sure enough, 100% intensity. I'm like, okay, something happened. So I dialed it back. I stepped it all the way back down to 20%, and I slowly acclimated the whole tank back. I think right now we are sitting at maybe like 50%. And I think this is like a happy medium where the macroalgae do well and corals are not being blasted by a lot of light, because this light, it's pretty overkill for this size tank. 17-gallon tank. I just have this light in the storage. That's why I was like, oh, I might as well put it to use. So that's why I have the Radion over this little tank. And as you imagine, 100% blasting down, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I fixed that, but at the same time, while this is started doing well, the dragon breath started dying back. So it is what it is. I've learned that you cannot please everything in the tank, and at the same time, you don't want to adjust your tank's parameters just to please one coral. So I think 50%, maybe 60% is a happy medium, and I'll just see what does well. So one more thing I do for the mangrove tree is use root tap. And you may be wondering, what is a root tap? Let me grab it real quick. This guy right here. So there are many different types. These are usually freshwater. It contains some trace metal, which seems okay so far. The one I use is forged taps. I basically just it's actually really difficult now to kind of tuck it under the sand because mostly all roots down there. So I just jam maybe 3 or 4 taps around the tank. You can't really see in now, but these are all roots. You see all these roots kind of like glued to the corner and kind of fold back. One of the common question I have is whether I'm concerned that the mangrove may one day burst the seam of this tank. And to be honest, I'm kind of like ostrich with my head in the sand. I don't really think about it. And I feel like if there's room for the roots to grow inside with no resistance, because it's resistant in the corner, right? I feel like it would. It'll put some pressure, but it'll still go back there. And knock on wood, something does happen. This is a relatively small tank compared to like the 135 gallon I have. There's a 17 gallon of water, which is still not fun, but it's not going to be catastrophic for the whole house. So far, so good. This tank has been up and running for about 5.5 years. The tree really took off, I think, 2 years ago. Before, it was still kind of like a young tree. It's still a young tree. But before, the roots is not really pushing against the corners, etc. But you see how high the coral is. That's because the roots already wrapped that high, it's pushing all the corals up. So if you ask me if I'm concerned, yes, kind of, but I'm not. I don't think it's like a red flag right away, because I feel like we still have a little time before it gets to that point. Eventually, I would love to convert this tank to a saltwater pond, or saltwater tub at least. But to do that, I have to really get on Emily's good sides and maybe even move into a new house a little bit larger first. But so far, this little tank has been great for Green Spotted Puffer number 1 and Green Spotted Puffer number 2. Here is a kind of like a faraway view of how the mangrove is looking right now. I need to back up a little bit more to get the full view. So it has grown, and I'm really glad we did the trimming with Tyler. I keep calling him Taylor. Sorry, Taylor Swift. Tyler. They gave me some amazing advice in terms of keeping mangrove healthy, including using root tap, as well as some tips on how to trim back mangrove leaves. I mean, if you tell me like 2 years ago I'm gonna start cutting off these mangrove branches, I'll say you'd be crazy because I want them to grow. Why would I chop them back? But what I found is that not only when you chop them back you can dictate where the new branch grow, and also it seems to really spark the growth in the mangrove itself. So what I'm saying is that the more you trim your mangrove, likely it's gonna grow faster. But don't take my words on it. I'm not a botanist, so ask some of your plant friends to kind of confirm this information. But this is at least what I see. The reason I bring this up is because you see that in the back I already raised the light, and once again it is touching the light already, so I know for sure this have to go. But now I have to consider, do I trim it here? Or do I bring it even further down? And that's gonna depend on where do I want the new branch to come out and which area I wanna fill. I wanna fill this way. And over here, my ultimate goal, assuming that we're gonna stay in this house a little bit longer, is to have this grow over here. So I create kind of like a canopy for myself. I think that would be absolutely sick. And my wife just returned from Osaka, and she brought this little thing right here. So I thought that's a perfect place to hang it. And I believe the ultimate goal, besides growing out a canopy for the little room here, is to have the mangrove hold the light for the tank. Right now it is being hung from the ceiling. I have a lot of toggle hooks right there. But ultimately, I would love for one of these branches to be strong enough that I just hang the Radions off of it. I thought that would be fantastic. That's kind of like, it serves as a function as well. Almost like part of the, I don't want to call it furniture, but part of the actual hardware setup of the whole system. I thought that would be brilliant. For trimming, usually you use a pair of really sharp clipper, and people like sterilize them, make sure there's no bacterial stuff in there. In case of infection, but I've been really haphazard, thus my channel name Inappropriate Reefer. So I'm going to use this pair of scissors, and this pair of scissors is special because we accidentally stole it from Glen Aquarium. I'm so sorry. Glen Echo Park Aquarium, I believe is in Maryland. I think it's still in Maryland. My son has a wonderful birthday party at Glen Echo Park Aquarium. Maybe I'll share some clips here. He invited a bunch of his friends there. The staff's there, the aquarium's fantastic. I think the manager, owner, Andrew there is fantastic. They gave like wonderful presentation to all the kids. And I don't know how they deal with all the kids running around for 2 hours, but they did, and they did it fantastically. And the kids got to feed the fish, look at sharks, and do the touch tank, touch horseshoe crab, and learn a lot along the way and have a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it. That aquarium is really special because it also feature a lot of the critters from local waterway. So it's not just like a standard public aquarium. It's really hands-on and with a strong focus on what you find locally around the area, all the way from stream to river to lake to oceans. So they even have like a Chesapeake oyster tank, which I thought is so unique. But anyways, sorry for the little tangent, and this kind of sparked it. This is the scissor that I accidentally stole it from the aquarium in one of the box, and the next time we go there we'll return this. But yeah, I guess I'll use this in their honor to trim back the mangroves. Alright, not as much as I thought I would cut, but we got a little nice trimming to lop off the top. And hopefully that kind of encourage the mangrove tree to kind of grow horizontal a little bit more. We'll see how it develops. Alright, well, this will do it for this video. Thank you for watching all the way to here, and I appreciate you guys, as always, to follow along with my reefing journey. I hope you found something useful in today's video. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.